All right. Hey, everybody. As we get a shot of Michael typing there. How's it going? Welcome to our New Year's show. This is going to wrap up our big celebration of the change in year. We're going to wrap up all of our thoughts. I had the chance to do the awards on the site, the resolutions, the thoughts looking forward on 2014 and what to expect from that. So now I want to open up the floor to everyone else because we have fine, esteemed minds here to talk with. Our usual panel is here in full, actually. This might be the very first time we've ever had absolutely everyone. I'm going to go from left to right on my window, which means first, hello, Danny. How's it going?
Howdy.
Also have Clint. Hey.
What's up?
And Michael is here as well. Hello, Michael.
Hello.
Jeff is here as well. Hey.
Hey everyone.
And finally, John is freshly back from Japan. Welcome home.
Thank you.
Okay, so the basic premise is extremely simple. We're going to go through the categories that I used for determining all the different awards for the best of 2013 or whatever, and the first category was Best New Series. For that, on the site, I gave that to World Trigger. So, Best New Series, again, going left to right on my screen here. Danny, what did you think was the best new one of 2013 and why?
For 2013, I haven't read too much new manga, so I'm going to have to pass on this one.
Fair enough. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of that, actually. There's not everyone reads absolutely everything. Clint, what was your favorite new one of 2013?
It was a pretty weak year, honestly. Forced to make a decision, I'd have to say Iron Knight. It very few chapters in, so I have almost nothing to go on, but it seems pretty good so far. And like I said earlier, I think it could run for a really long time. It seems like a decent series with like a good premise, an okay enough main character. Although honestly, he's not my favorite part about it. I think the setting and the execution have been what it's been all about.
Yeah, definitely. But I know what you mean. Like, it's really hard to give it to. We had what, like 4 chapters in that year, so it's really tough to give it to that. But it was pretty impressive. Michael, what about you? Did anything catch your eye in 2013 as a newcomer?
Well, I have to agree that it really was a pretty weak year for new series. But one thing I enjoyed was it debuted in the Digital Shonen Jump publication called Jacko the Galactic Patrolman. And it's written by Akira Toriyama. He written a couple other series you may have heard of,
Who is that?
Exactly. And it didn't have any huge stakes. The world wasn't in peril. There's no Super Saiyan fights. But it had a lot of clever humor in it. It was a very enjoyable series, and I really liked the tone it had. It was a more relaxed tone. And unfortunately, Toriyama kept feeling he needed to apologize to American audiences that we wouldn't get it. But I think it turned out pretty well. Nice short read.
Yeah, it was pretty fun, I thought. A good one. Pity that guy never amounted to anything otherwise, huh? Jeff, what about you? Jeff, what about you? What do you think? 2013 news stuff.
Yeah, I haven't read Iron Knight yet. I have read both Jocko and World Trigger. Out of those and the other series started this, the other series I read this year that started this year, which isn't very much, basically just Hime Doll. I would say that the best was World Trigger. I didn't think so at first, but it has started to grow on me. I really think.
Yeah, it was really consistent, which was the reason that I gave it my nod. I appreciated the way that it was never amazing, but it was really solid throughout. And John, did anything new catch your attention in 2013?
I haven't read all of World Trigger yet. Only just a little bit, or what's available of Iron Knight. Out of the two of those, and like we said before, Iron Knight's too short so far, really. But I'd say World Trigger's probably a pretty safe bet out of the new things I've seen, which isn't all that much. But yeah, I think I'm on board with that.
Fair enough. Pretty consistent answers here. I'm a little bit surprised no one picked UQ Holder, but maybe we still don't trust Akamatsu yet. Not yet. Really, again, it was not an amazing year for new series, but I don't know. At least there's like 2 or 3 that we'll be able to look at in the future. All right, next award is for Best New Character of 2013. If you can be bothered to think about individual characters that have come in and made an impact in 2013, I gave my nod, apparently controversially according to some people, to Masked Masculine from Bleach. Fun guy, wrestling character. Again, Danny, left to right, what do you think?
So I would have to give this one to Shusuke Daikokuya from Teitokuchi. Mainly because I find it interesting that if for a series such as this and manga that we tend to read in shonen, the main male character isn't is usually the focal point of the so-called battles if we're going to have a battle series, or the action mainly. But he's a little more understated, and his usefulness in the series is that he has this very good talking skills. He can read people very well, and it's just a subtle power, if we're going to call it that, that you don't see very often. And I really like the way that they go about solving these mysteries through using his specific abilities. It's a little refreshing from the standard gung ho main character.
Yeah, that's really that's a memorable ability, or so to speak. It's something unique about him that you really don't get from anything else. That is pretty cool. Clint, next up, best new character of 2013.
I think my best new character of 2013, and I'm going to make myself incredibly unpopular around here with this, is Tota Konoe from UQ Holder, the main character. I actually really enjoy him. I've heard quite a few arguments against him, but I think he's likable enough. I think he has the potential to be to become like even a lot better. But I think one of the main draws to his character is that he kind of has a different attitude towards everything that we don't normally see. Like it's a common trend for us to see characters that either don't care about what's going on, they're kind of above it all, or like very, very dopey sandbag main characters. And Tota kind of slips a boundary that isn't either of those. He's cool enough to not always be, the heel of everything that's going on, and like being stepped on constantly and tossed around. But he's also not above everything like an Ichigo sort of character who, I should make clear, I don't dislike Ichigo, but it's nice to see, sort of the main, like the go-lucky sort of character every once in a while.
Yeah, he actually takes charge and has personality. It's actually reading about a unique character. It's kind of like in video games when you play a silent protagonist, you're just kind of projecting your own feelings and emotions onto a character. He's very much the opposite of that. He's actually someone that you're reading about that's totally different to you or anyone else. It's pretty cool. Michael, what about you? Best new character from last year?
Well, call me populist, but there was a character in a certain series called One Piece that I found very entertaining named Bartolomeo. And honestly, this character just became more and more incredible as the year went on. He's introduced as this typical wrestling heel with this really interesting ability that everyone just flat out hates. And then it turns out not only is he an incredibly successful crime boss, he is the world's biggest Straw Hat fanboy. And I found this joke to be funny every time it was used. He's a very enjoyable character, and he's actually gone a bit more depth recently. Having an honorable relationship with Bellamy, whatnot. And as an entertaining character in a very entertaining series, I've found him to be the best new character for me.
Yeah, he's so much fun, isn't he? We had actually a few fun new characters. I mean, I would include Mask in the same breath there, and he's definitely of the same vein. He's just a breath of fresh air. He's just exciting and really entertaining to read about. Jeff, sorry, go ahead, Michael.
As an honorable mention, I'll say everyone in Seven Deadly Sins who isn't Wrath.
That's actually a really good call. All right, Jeff, next up. What about you? Best new character?
I had a bit of a tough one with this. At first I was thinking of actually giving this to Dokuro from World God Only Knows, until I realized that the aspect of her character I liked the most, I won't get into too much spoilers, but it also disqualifies her from this category. If you've read the series, you know what I'm talking about. But so the best new character, I'd probably also have to go with someone from UQ Holder, but I would actually go with Kuromaru. He or she, depending on how you look at their character, they always seem to have an interesting dynamic with Tota, and I was also sort of in the category that didn't like Tota very much, just not as extreme as I'm guessing some people are. But it's an interesting dynamic, and it seems like an attempt to make a character like Setsuna from Negima from before, but more of a main character in this sort of way.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. There are one or two aspects of that character that I find a little bit awkward, but for the most part, he or she, again, depending on preference, depending on the direction that the story ends up taking, has been very interesting to read about, and a great play off of Clint's favorite new character of the year of Tota. I think they work very well together. I think they bring a lot out of each other. And to wrap up this topic, John, your favorite new character from last year?
I'm going with Michael on this one. Bartolomeo was probably not only my favorite character, new character of the year, but also the one who grew on me the most. When he first showed up, I mean, he showed up like in a swath of like, I don't know, 3 dozen other characters. So at first it was pretty kind of hard to care about him, but it got to the point where every time he was on the page, like I wanted to see more of him. Like each time, and it built up to the point where now I really can't wait to see what he does next, because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get a giggle out of it.
Yeah, definitely. I very much love having him as a part of the cast now. All right, so that's it for best new character. The next topic is the best love interest. Should clarify, love interest, I don't mean like possible romantic option for one of the characters. What I mean is like best romance, but not necessarily actual tangible romance. Maybe it's like romantic tension. Maybe it's an actual relationship. I mean, something like that. The best possible romantic aspect of a series, couple, or what have you. So, Danny, to start with you, what was your favorite love interest of the year?
Being one who tries to stray away from this kind of thing when I'm reading manga, I am going to pass on this one.
Fair point. All right. Clint, what about you? Any favorite love interests from last year?
Foreshadowing one of my choices up to come, I will agree with you in what you posted on the article and say Ayasaki Hayate and Suirenji Ruka. Hayate and Ruka's romance throughout that section of Hayate, I think you did a pretty good job of describing it, but I mean, to just clarify my points on it, it was excellent. It was like really understated. It was perfect for their age level, as manga so often fails to clarify. I mean, so often we see manga where the characters either behave like 13-year-olds when they're 15, or they behave like 21-year-olds when they're 15, and neither one of those is correct. I think Hayate kind of hit it right on the mark. I think things were shown and not said, which is what manga always needs to do, and so many authors fail to do really often. And I think the tonal shift away from comedy just further proves the author is capable of so much depth that people probably wouldn't expect out of what is essentially like a step away from being a gag series.
Yeah, I was so impressed with that one, and obviously I've gone great length with all of that on the site. So let's just proceed right along with Michael. Your thoughts on the best love interest of 2013?
Well, this one might be a little controversial, but I'm going to go with Sakurai Ichigo and Tsuabaki from Bin Bagami Ga. And yes, it was a gag series, but I felt that this particular relationship really factored in very well with the way that arc ended, represented the climax of those character arcs, which are done very well. And it was a source of very good drama, very good comedy, and very good just general storytelling. Some of my favorite scenes in this series at the end come from the growing relationship between Ichigo and Tsuabaki. And there were several pretty decent romantic interests I read this year, but this is one of the few that I felt was very mutual. The development was mutual on both ends. Like in the Yamada and the Seven Witches, that's a pretty good romance, but I felt that it was mostly just Yamada trying really, really hard. In the case of Bin Bagami, I felt like both those characters were developing, growing as the series went on, and their mutual growing attraction is culminated in a very satisfying way.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate the love for a monthly series too. It's really difficult. It's certainly a lot more difficult to follow the monthly stuff than it is the weekly stuff, with the high profile of releases of the scanlations and just the general popularity of weekly stuff. So a great shout out to a monthly series there. Glad that wrapped up well, in your opinion. Jeff, what about you? Best love interest of 2013?
Well, I could go the silly route and say Kuromaru again, but I would definitely have to agree with you and say Hayate and Ruka was one of my favorites this year. The only other one that I could even debate counted toward this category that I would consider good was Ganta and Shiro toward the end of Dead Man Wonderland. But even that, it's I'm not even sure if you qualify that as a romantic relationship at all, because I'm pretty sure the series definitely doesn't.
Sort of. I mean, there is interest there in a capacity, but I mean, you can't go wrong with Hayate and Ruka, frankly, at least in my
Yeah.
opinion.
And if
Uh,
there is interest, I don't think it really played toward the end of the series. I think they more played their relationship in a different light. Again, I won't go too into spoilers.
yeah, no, you definitely have the, I think, the right thought process there that matches up with what the authors intended. All right, and then John, finally, love interest.
I don't really read any romantic manga, but I think I might. Maybe it's fair to say that there's something between Bartolomeo and Luffy. Luffy may not know it yet, but I think there's definitely something there to look forward to.
Sophie Senpai.
Please notice me. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's going to take the story in an entirely new direction that I want. Best ending. There were so many endings in 2013. We can't possibly cover all of them, but there were tons and tons of series. We were remarked on it on the Beamcasts in like the middle of the summer period when all of a sudden everything was ending left and right. So out of all of the endings, Danny, can you pick out one that was your favorite?
Yes, to continue off what Michael was saying, my favorite ending was Bimbo Gamiga, and mainly because it felt as if it was coming after a long time, but it also ended very thematically satisfying and dramatically satisfying as well. Because here we have the whole series is essentially just the character arc of Ichiko and her eventually reliance on this other character, the secondary main character Momiji, and it kind of just comes to a breaking point there where they have to part. And I really enjoyed the way that it was executed near the by the end of it. More so than anything else, possibly because this development was coming since the beginning of the series, and so it felt like it had a lot more heart into it. So I really enjoyed the way that ended, and the way that it ends, but it also doesn't end because everything always has to keep going. But I like the way that it wrapped up in the end of Bimbo Gamiga.
That's nice. I have to say, I am a little bit surprised that you didn't line up with me on my choice for best ending, which is Medaka Box, knowing your opinion on that series. But that's very cool. I'm glad. More Bimbo Gamiga love here. Clint, favorite ending of 2013?
I really like the way Naruto wrapped itself up very early on in 2013, and we didn't have to endure a bunch of chapters of very terrible comment. Yeah, that, my fantasy aside, I think my actual pick for best ending would have been Soul Eater. The ending of that series was really well done. I thought that all the characters had shown advancement. Everyone felt sort of grown up at a point. It was very well done in the fact that it felt like the world was continuing. It didn't feel like everything about it was just over. The characters were continuing on with their lives and going on to do whatever else they intended to do. The way the final boss was finished off, for lack of a better term, was pretty good. I thought it brought closure that the series needed to a couple key issues. So yeah, I think all in all, it was very well executed. If not like a memorable huge chapter, it was just a very steady advancement towards the end of the series that I can't find a lot of fault with.
Yeah, kind of the point that you were making about the way that their lives continued on reminded me of series in the style of Fullmetal Alchemist, in the sense that the characters that we followed were kind of just pieces of an overall greater puzzle, and while their story was important and enjoyable to follow, it was not the only thing going on in the world at the time altogether, nor was it the only thing going on in their own lives. They have other things to go on to, so that was actually pretty well done. Michael, up next, your favorite ending of last year.
I have to go with Ben Mogami. This is extremely impressive how well this series managed to end itself. I've seen several series, or at least a few, try to end, similar to this series, try to end like Violence of Hamel and what Naruto's trying to do now, and they're just falling flat on their face. But the way Ben Mogami managed to end, it mixes tension, genuine drama, while never losing sight of the fact that it's a comedy. It stays funny throughout the entire thing. And it was an incredibly satisfying ending, and I especially love how much it's evident the author cares about the characters. If there's any character you cared about at any point in the series, they have something important to do towards the end. They have some sort of thing to do. And like unlike certain series like Naruto, where no one seems to really do anything.
Is that a problem in Naruto? We've never noticed that before. Never once commented on it. Jeff, what about you? Favorite ending from last year?
All right, this is the award I would definitely have to give to Dead Man Wonderland. There are only like a couple series whose endings I still remember right now. Those being Gameran and Soul Eater. Both of the Gameran ended a little. It actually ended a little better than I thought it would, because I thought it would end doing nothing basically. Dead Man Wonderland. What I really liked about it is not just the fact that it wrapped up the story in a satisfying way. It did it in a way I didn't 100% expect, because I expected either a very clean, everything goes properly sort of ending, but I also expected a sort of ending in which just about every character dies or is left in tragedy or something like that. It seemed like a direction that series would go, but it didn't go either of those routes, and what we were left with, I did think it was pretty good, left me feeling good about the series.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I think that it was strangely touching. Like, despite all of the really horrible things that happened to these characters, it was memorable in the way that it was kind of emotional. John, anything that you read this past year end well in your mind?
The only thing I read that ended was Soul Eater, and there were some parts of it that I liked, but personally, I was fairly disappointed by it. Because I guess what we all learned was that boobs are great. That was kind of what I took out of that last chapter.
Yeah.
But that's really all I can say, because it was the only thing I read that ended. So not my favorite way to do it, but I suppose it could have been worse. So
Boobist ending goes to Soul Eater. All right, next up was the category for Best Art of the Year, and I have to get this out of the way. I know it's going to come up. I may even be ruining one of your answers. I'm sorry. One Punch Man is not shonen. Let's declare that. It's not shonen, okay? I know it publishes in the American Shonen Jump. I know that it had one special chapter in Shonen Jump in Japan. It publishes in Young Jump. I think it's even Young Jump Web, something like that. So it's a seinen series. Let's also get out of the way the fact that if it was shonen, yes, it would win. You are right. It would definitely win. That's no contest. So, One Punch Man aside, let's try to focus on other quality art that is in fact shonen. I picked Area D. I thought that was great. Danny, what did you pick?
I picked Shokugeki no Soma, mainly because if we're going off art, this is a series that prioritizes style over substance. Granted, what the actual content isn't terrible, but I would say it would be a much different series if not for the art. And the way that they style some things like the delusions, people's imaginations of what actually happened, when you eat food, and their reactions get illustrated in such a way. It's pretty damn good. Whether you want to be hilarious about it or titillating, it goes between each one, and just the fantastical way that they go about it is pretty commendable.
Yeah, definitely. Touch is fantastic. Clint, what about you? Best art?
Well, my answer is still One Punch Man, but in the realm of shonen manga, I have to also say Shokugeki no Soma. I've really enjoyed Tasha's drawings for this. I think his reaction shots, especially to characters eating food, sort of have become like a trademark of the series, and I wouldn't feel right reading it if those still weren't there. They're really excellent. I do wish we had another Oh Great Shonen, because I feel like that would have swiped this category for me. So I hope he's on that.
Yeah, I know that he was up to another project at some point, but I kind of thought that ended. I'll have to look that back up. It's strange how he's just kind of fallen off the map. Then again, he's all about being strange. Michael, what about you? What stood out artistically for you in 2013?
Well, somebody decided One Punch Man wasn't shonen, so
It isn't!
can't go with that. Jeez. Well, I'll go with my second choice of Cross Manage, the lacrosse series that debuted in the Digital Shonen Jump. Unfortunately short-lived. This guy's art is just fantastic. Unfortunately, scanlators really aren't caught up on it for whatever reason, but I encourage everyone to check this series out. The character designs are really fantastic. The facial expressions, it's really weird to say that, but the facial expressions, period, are just amazing. I've never seen a series that's this good at facial expressions. And there are a lot of shonen series that work with more cartoonish designs, like, say, an Isekoi or something like that. But for me, having the characters look a lot more realistic, like actual people, really helped this series, in my opinion. I really feel like the art, like the series, has been underappreciated, so I have to go with Cross Manage.
Cool. Yeah, it definitely is a slightly overlooked one. It is pretty much just impossible to track down in the world of Scanlation, which is too bad. But yeah, nice shot for that. Jeff, what about you? Your best art of last year?
All right, first of all, just now I ended up checking that new Oh Great series. If you're talking about Biowork Trinity, that's also a seinen, so I guess even if we could find that, yeah. But I will have to give this answer to Shokugeki no Soma, because part of what I really like with the art in that style is something I remember someone saying about Bakuman, about how the series is able to create a bunch of different looks to these series sometimes. I noticed that in places, especially with the whole food reactions, which is what everyone seems to talk about with regards to the art in the series.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously the big deal is when the fantastical reactions take place and everyone just goes crazy. And Tosh does such a fantastic job of illustrating the absurd side of that. I wish I reacted like that every time I ate something. John, what about you? Last up here, best art of last year?
I do think Soma's really good. I won't even mention the obvious elephant in the room here. Something that I was very recently turned on to, based on what I saw while I was just in Japan over the holidays, is I actually really like the art in Yowamushi Pedal. Like, it's kind of weird. I think maybe a lot of folks, I don't know, maybe a lot of folks wouldn't agree with me, but personally, like, I really like the sketchiness of it. And every now and then there are these like watercolor pages that are really, really cool. And it's something I just recently picked up, so it's kind of gotten me excited to read a little bit more, even though I know there's not a whole heck of a lot of it out.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I really wish that there was more. Actually, it's been something that's been out for a fairly long time, I believe, and yeah, we need more cycling series. Give the bicyclers some love, please, cyclists. Yeah, I think honestly we easily could just say One Punch Man and be done with it, but it's just not fair. Although we could just say One Punch Man wins every award just because it's that good. 2014 Grammy goes to One Punch Man. All right, best fight of 2013. Gonna start with you, Danny. What was the best fight, the best action for you?
I'm going to cheat and say a whole bunch of fights, or rather, at the end of Bimbo Gamiga. As we were mentioning, there's this whole dramatic aspect to it, and at the end, the one thing that the author Yoshiaki Sukeno likes to do is the fights aren't always necessarily about the fights themselves, but more of how he injects the comedy into it. And I felt like the last couple of fights, all of them, together, whether like it was so grand in scale and in comedy as well, because it, as Michael alluded to before, it included pretty much every single character in the series. If you had a favorite character, they played some part in the final battle. So that was very enjoyable to see, and also in the way that some, the main crucial characters, Ranmaru, all of them, they all had their own little final arcs in the last couple of battles. So that was also enjoyable to see.
That's cool. Clint, what about you? What was the best fight in your mind last year? Have we lost Clint?
Oh, nope, I'm here.
Okay.
I think my favorite fight of the last year was Beelzebub, Ogre versus Takamiya. I really enjoyed that fight. It was appropriately brutal for a delinquent series. Had a lot of emotion to it going on at the time in the series, which I think has just kind of been a hallmark of how good Beelzebub has been for a while. Yeah, it was just a fight I really enjoyed. I loved all the punching.
That's about the best way that you could possibly put it. I enjoyed the punching. But I know what you mean, actually. Like the countering and the way that Oga was kind of like swiftly moving in behind at different key points. It was really well choreographed, I thought. Michael, your choice of best fight from last year?
My choice of best fight would be Sunny versus Tommy Rod from Toriko. And for me, this is the highest point in that series right before it sort of hit its nadir. It's viscerally exciting. There's interesting contrast of powers. I mean, one guy shoots bugs out of his mouth, another guy has devil hair. And the characters are actually people we care about. I mean, okay, me not care about Tyrot, but I found him to be an interesting character. And maybe it's even better in contrast to the Toriko versus Starjune fight, which I found to be very, very tedious in comparison. It's about 4 chapters, well-paced, exciting, and we also learn that Sunny's hair can eat the universe if it wanted to.
Always good to know. Good to have that in a series if you ever want to pull out a trump card. Yeah, that was a pretty good one, actually. That was definitely my short list of contenders. Jeff, what about your choice of the best fight from last year?
For me, I would have to go with the last battle in Soul Eater. This one I won't even bother putting spoilers for. Is the characters versus fighting Kishi and Azura. It used a lot of different elements, had a lot of build-up to it, and I think it actually succeeded in something which we later discussed Magi utterly failing at, which is it managed to portray a fight against what is essentially an omnipresent force of nature, which is the Kishin. Is how I always viewed him.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good comparison. I wouldn't have thought of that, honestly, but I think that was done so much better. They're not identical, obviously, but it was the same sort of plot elements, and it was done so much better in Soul Eater. And John? Yep. We lose someone here? No, we're good. John, best fight last year.
Probably everything, and I guess like everything going on with Mass Demasculine. I mean, even though I don't have a lot of the context needed for Bleach, I have been reading recent stuff just to kind of see what's been going on, and amazing, hilarious. The minute he shot a laser beam out of his forehead, I was a fan. So I guess it was. I liked it because even though I'm not as well versed in Bleach as a lot of folks, I would have never expected that kind of thing out of Bleach, and I think that's what makes me like it even more.
Yeah, I don't think you actually need all that much context for it. I mean, of course, you get a little bit of help there with like knowing the character motivations or whatever, but yeah, no, it was just fun, pure fun.
Mm-hmm.
My choice for that category had been, I should mention, Iki versus Luke from Kenichi. My honorable mention was, I'm a little bit surprised no one picked Kenpachi versus Unohana from Bleach.
That was my honorable mention.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I thought it was a really nice one. It's more of a storytelling fight than actual action, but I thought it was really good. And some other contenders we should at least give a nod to was Zangief versus Elliot from Ippo, and Jin versus Gods from Area D. That is, again, it's not entirely focused on the action itself, but the art was just phenomenal, as usual. Most improved series, this one got a few people talking, I saw on Reddit or whatever. I gave it to Kimi no Irumachi. Now, I think some people misunderstood here, and I want to make it very clear. Most improved series does not mean the series now has to be good. I want to make that plainly clear. I don't like Kimi no Irumachi anymore, thanks to that. It was a good year for it, I felt, and it was assisted by the fact that it was at such a horrible low point before that. So bearing in mind, the idea of this category is not that it's great. I'm not saying best series, but what do you think improved the most from wherever it was the previous year, starting with you, Danny?
I'm going to add a little addendum to what you said, because I'm also not going to I'm not implying that it used to be terrible before it improved. It just got to a different plane. And my answer is Beelzebub, because looking at 2012 versus 2013, very little of consequence actually happened in the series. You had them going into the new school, meeting the new students, but then after that it sort of wandered for the rest of the year in wacky antics and things that seemed kind of one-off, and of course nothing to say against it because it was comedy and it was pretty funny, but comparatively now, where in 2013 everything started coming into place with them all going into the current arc with this whole Demon World issue and the Solomon Company, and it just seemed like 2013 was much more structured. It had an actual vision as opposed to aiming wanderously like in 2012. So I really enjoyed the way that Beelzebub is ramping up and towards what I would assume is an ending. but or it's fine like some kind of grand climax. But I really enjoy how everything's developed up until now.
I would definitely agree. It was a major step up in terms of its direction and focus. And you're right also. I should also make that clear for everyone's sake. It does also not mean, this category, that it had to be bad previously. It's just wherever it was the year before that, in 2012, until 2013, what made the biggest leap, regardless of good previously or bad previously. So, Clint, with that in mind, what was your most improved series of last year?
This was such a close race for me that I feel I have to mention my runner-up, which was Kenichi. Kenichi did a really good job of improving from where it had been, which was some pretty egregious fan service. And when I say egregious fan service about Kenichi, I don't mean what it normally is every chapter. I mean it going above and beyond what it normally does, to be pretty blatant about it. And also just some pretty dry plot and lack of fights and things of that nature that I'm not looking for from the series. It really got better. That said, my number one most improved series is Hajime no Ippo. Ippo was at such a pitiable place. I just wasn't having fun reading it anymore after a string of events that you actually described at some point in your article. The Wally fight and the Itagaki presence just kind of ruined the manga for me. And 2013 saw a string of events, like very many events happened in 2013 that were just so good. It just took the manga back to form. It was the Ippo that I had loved for 800, 900 chapters. So yeah, I'm really glad to see that doing well again. It was definitely my most improved.
Yeah, it's just wonderful to have it back. This is what it should have been all along. It's absolutely fantastic that it's back to this level. Michael, what about you? Most improved?
Well, I might be cheating, but I guess maybe this doesn't have a last year to compare to, but my first choice is World Trigger, because honestly, I could not stand the beginning of that series. It was this boring, tedious morass of exposition and not much action. It was also inexplicably popular. But it's gradually become a very consistently enjoyable series to read. As for series that have actually gone better from last year to this year, I don't think I have anything actually in mind.
That's fine. I think that actually works just as well as most improved within the year, and I would totally agree. World Trigger, when it just started, I was really down on it, just like you. That exposition was unbelievable. The narrative boxes saying, well, there are these people called neighbors, and they are aliens from another world, and they can do this, and this is the border force that patrols them, and they fight to just show some of it. But it's actually, it has improved immeasurably over the course of the year. So, yeah, good shout on that award as well. Coming up with some good answers here. Jeff, what about you? Your most improved last year?
I considered saying World Trigger as well for a lot of the same reasons. At the beginning of the series, I expected that it was going to be going in the direction of just a basic action series, just with a lot more exposition and all of that. And it has improved a lot since then. But for the most improved series, this is another one that's didn't start off bad. It started off as much more average, I think. I would have to go to Nanatsu no Taizai. In the last year or so, I do feel like it's gotten better. The characters have gotten more interesting and have better dynamics, and the characters feel slightly less broken than they used to. Not quite enough for me to actually have any fear for their safety, but I do think things are going in a good direction now.
That's great. And finally, John, your thoughts on the most improved series of 2013?
Again, I know my catalog of things that I read is not as much as everyone else on this panel, but I think Naruto really took some strides this year. Oh wait, improved. Sorry. Again, I guess this. I don't know. This maybe is not the right answer, but I was really surprised at how many times, especially right at the end of the year, Oda really pushed what he was doing in One Piece. I guess he just kept taking it further, and we talked about this, where you figure it seems like he's at a point where it's about as crazy as it's going to get, and you can look forward to those things happening. But there were a few chapters in a row right at the end where the stakes just got bigger and bigger, and more things got thrown in, but not once did it make anyone I know go, "Oh, this is too much." It just made everyone want more, and I think that's an improvement.
Yeah. I definitely ramped up, certainly in intensity at the very end of the year. I really enjoyed that as well. I also want to give my own honorable mention a shout here because I thought that one person would have mentioned it. My honorable mention, it was so close, was Yamada and the Seven Witches. Compared to where it was last year, which was enjoyable but fairly formulaic and episodic and a little just kind of aimless. This summer, roughly, that was the really big period for Yamada where it just took off. Once you got to about like the third or fourth witch, and all the storylines started intertwining, I thought that was a huge improvement from where it was the previous year. One dummy award in here. Every award ceremony has to have one dummy award. The opposite of the one that we just talked about. The worst decline over the course of 2013. Which one dipped the most from where it used to be? Starting with you, Danny. Worst decline.
This question's a little hard to, I guess, quantify, because I didn't really dislike too many series going, throughout the year, and the only one I did dislike is hard to call a decline because it's been declining for a very long time now, and I'm pretty sure you guys know what I'm talking about, and it's Naruto. I mean, I don't know how many people's answers I've stolen from this or not, but yeah, it's like at the beginning of the year, I believe it was around this time when they started introducing the flashbacks with Madara and the whole first Hokage and everything, and it just introduced an issue that we haven't spoken about too much, but it's become an issue going forward that if we're gonna keep comparing the first Hokage to Naruto, then we have to cut Naruto some slack because from the looks of it, it seems like the first Hokage is leaps and bounds better than Naruto. So, if anything, this is just harming the main character even more. And and the fact that he stayed, and it just created so many more problems that were kind of new to this arc. So I guess it's just Kishimoto digging the hole deeper, and now even it's hard to say where it's going to go from here. But, I mean, it just doesn't look very good for Naruto at all.
No, it certainly doesn't. By the way, that has a name. That has an exact term for it. The reference that you're talking about, the comparison, it's known as the First Vongala syndrome.
Yes, of course.
That was a horrible, dark period in our history. Clint, what about you? Worst decline?
Well, I can't give it to Naruto because it was almost rock bottom going into the run of 2013 and then just continued to, dig its way down. But I will agree with you, Jean, in saying it was Magi. The fight in particular against the dark spot, the giant shadow monster thing, the pages upon pages of everyone using their extreme magic, which was it was just very unpleasant to read and didn't have a whole lot going on with it. It was a whole lot of one-page shots of characters saying words and then lots of speed lines being drawn. Yeah, it just wasn't good. And coming from where it had been, which was a series that I really respected and thought was going to go the distance, run for a long time and be like a big series, it was not something I wanted to see.
Yeah. I can't overstate how disappointed I've been with Magi, but I put all those words in the article, which again, if you're interested to hear my extended thoughts on all this stuff, please go check out shonenbeam.com. All the stuff's still on the front page. Michael, your thoughts on the worst declined series of 2013?
I'm surprised this just wasn't called the Magi Award. I mean, look at where we were last year with this series. We had a great antagonist in Magamet. We had an interesting conflict of philosophies between Magamet and the Wizard Nation and the other countries. And then several chapters later, it's suddenly our main characters aren't doing anything. We have tons of forgettable minor characters from the Ku Empire and against a dark blob, basically. I mean, when a series goes from being one of my favorite series to read to being a chore to read, I consider that pretty condemning in itself. It's just amazing. And even the art, for some reason, the art just collapsed in this series. I have no idea why. It's gotten a little better, but it hit a really low point this year.
Yeah, I mean the art actually is a good point. We don't really touch on that very much, but I think it did get a little bit sloppier too, which is just bizarre. I mean, it was never the nicest series to look at. I'm not saying it was incredible, but it was fine. And yeah, like everything else, the art dipped, the story dipped, the characters dipped, everything. She lost sight of what made that series what it was. Jeff, what about you? Worst decline?
Before give the obvious answer, I do have one honorable mention for this. And it's not the biggest decline or worst decline. It's the how the hell is this series still declining award. I would have to give that to Fairy Tail because at some point, like around the time they reintroduced Flare and they reintroduced Minerva, and I realized that they were going for redemption arcs for them for I think it's the fifth or sixth time, like particularly with female characters in this series who start off as villainous. I realized that not only is the series still bad, it's somehow gotten more and more formulaic over time, and I didn't think that was possible. But for the overall award, I would have to give this to Magi, like everyone else, because the, it sounds like someone breathing really heavily. Like I want to say
Yeah, I'm
something.
getting some kind of noise, but try to press on.
Oh, like with Magi, like most of what you guys said is I agree with it definitely. The story very much went downhill even after the fight. Like a lot of the chapters that focused on Alibaba, we all agree that most of us agree that those were of poor quality too. It's gotten better, but I'm worried that what we saw in these chapters was like that this might not just be an isolated incident, and that at the end of the next arc, we might end up seeing something similar if the series doesn't know how to end its arcs properly.
Yeah, I think I appreciate the fact that you corrected yourself. All of us said that. Oh no, wait, one of us happened to like that. Who might that have been? Somebody liked that. No idea.
Who could
No, it's
possibly have
totally
liked
cool.
that?
No, it's totally cool. Yeah, no, I mean, we should make mention that Monkey did improve at the very, very end of the year. The stuff that's happening right now, the trip to Balbad, like there is the chance that it could go back to what it was, but that's after some pretty bad times. To round out this topic, John, anything stand out as the worst decline? I wonder what you might say here.
No, I agree that you can't really call it Naruto because it wasn't at a good place to begin with. I mean, I will say, and I kind of mentioned this before, I was kind of disappointed with how Soul Eater ended. I feel like, for me, I feel like Death the Kids started overshadowing sort of everyone, and he was a fun character. I liked him, but I guess he wasn't the main draw for me, and maybe this is just a personal takeaway, but I feel like all the focus that he got, especially there towards the end, it just really didn't gel well with me, and it kind of ended up being, for me, probably one of the biggest letdowns of the year.
Yeah, it's a pity, especially when it's the ending, because that'll really stick in your mind and kind of influence your opinion of the overall series. But yeah, so yeah, a couple. Well, I mean, there was one clear answer for the year. I also thought Toriko kind of slipped thanks to that Starjun fight, but at least it wasn't the whole year for Toriko. There was some good element to the storytelling. Story arc of the year. We're getting to the big three awards here, starting with story arc of the year, the extended story that caught your attention, that kept you engaged, that you just couldn't wait to read the next chapter of for weeks on end. I gave this award to a series that Clint mentioned for most improved, and that is Hajime no Ippo, specifically the story arc of Ippo versus Alfredo Gonzalez. This is something that I've been looking forward to, not just this fight specifically, but the step into the world stage for so long now, and it's been done fantastically so far. The arc is not finished yet, but it was definitely the one series, the one arc that I wanted to go back to time and again, and I just couldn't wait to see what happened next. Danny, what caught your eye like that? What was the one thing that you wanted to go back to the most?
For this one, I would have to say Soul Eater. Kind of in the opposite way that he was talking before, where you have Death the Kid that was becoming more important. But I see it as proper to the series as whole because if you think about it, Death the Kid is the most important character. He is Shinigami. Or now he is at the end of the series, the way it concludes. But specifically, though, I mean, the way that the entire arc played out, more along how there was some slight politics involved with Death the Kid and how he had to deal with the witches, and the culmination of that relationship and what it meant for the series going forward. And it really showed I really enjoyed the way that played out and how they had to deal with that, and also Maka and the way that she had to deal with Krona and having to fight with her dad. There were like a lot of good moments in that final arc leading into that final battle, and I felt that despite Death the Kid having more importance in the story, they still somewhat balanced the characters' own arcs out properly. Though except for Black Star, which seemed a bit off the. He didn't get much screen time, despite him being the whole show, according to him. But I mean, if there was anything to fix, I'd probably fix that. But everything else, though, it felt like it was just all culminating together. Didn't feel too rushed, and it felt it felt all right with the world. I mean, minus the ending, which I'm a little cold on, but I like the way that entire final arc of them fighting on the moon and everything surrounding around it played out.
That ending is just so hard to remember that it actually happened. I've kind of just written it out of my head. Like that, surely that was just like a weird Omake Dojin fan art, something like that. No, that actually happened. By the way, Danny and John, you two have to fight now because different opinions can't be allowed. Clint, story arc of the year, big one here. What'd you think?
Honorable mention, really quick. Beelzebub's America arc was amazing. Almost made this spot for me. But the main spot goes to, for me, Assassination Classroom's Island arc, with all the kids being poisoned and everything that's been happening pretty recently in the series. It was really amazing to me to see all the elements, all the characters come together. Everything starts to kind of work in a similar way. All the pieces of the puzzle have fit together in Assassination Classroom. I think we're kind of just now seeing how brilliant everything in that series has been done. How all the elements have been just masterfully placed in the story to lead up into these arcs that from now on every arc could be like this. I don't see any reason why not. Every single arc in the series could just be amazing and incredible and amazing to read week to week. It was a really good arc for me.
Yeah, definitely was. Michael, what about you? Favorite story arc this year?
My favorite story arc was the rematch between Fujioka and Shorin from Cross Manage, which was basically the conclusion of the series. And as a sports series, it works very well, and maybe one reason the series never gained a huge amount of popularity was that it took this long for it to become this good at a sports series. And it's just flat out amazing. The art is really great. The character arcs are concluded very well here. And if you're at all invested in what happens to the characters, it's very satisfying. I really enjoy the way that series ended. As an honorable mention, another sports series, the Kurosano versus Abojasai from Haikyuu. That arc, again, much like the cross-manage arc, really puts into focus why the series is pretty good. We get to see all the characters cooperate, use their skills they've been training for all this time, and there's a good back and forth that you really want to see from any sports series. So 2 sports series for me for this.
Good call on that. Sports series, I really wish that this is more of a problem among Western fans than it is in Japan. A lot of Western fans have an aversion to sports stuff. Please give them a try. I'm not saying every one of them is great by default, but there is some amazing stuff that you can only find in sports series. Some of my favorite series, Cross Game and Slam Dunk and Rookies, are sports series. And I think that you've given a couple. I mean, I'm not familiar with Cross Manage, I'll say, but Haikyuu has really impressed me with the way it's come on leaps and bounds. And also Kuroko no Basket, I know, the jokes about the Fujoshi bait and all that stuff, but it actually has some really interesting storytelling. One of my nominees for story arc this year actually was the Teiko flashback. Jeff, what about you? Your favorite story arc from the year?
I'm actually going to agree with Clint here. The most recent arc of Assassination Classroom might be a bit early because the arc hasn't actually finished yet. It's pretty close to finishing, I think, but this is one of the first times in the series, I think, where there's an actual aspect of danger to it. Like, before, their characters were put in danger, but this is one of the first times they've really gone into a situation knowing just exactly how dangerous and how deadly it could be. Like, in addition to that, it was also the build-up of lot of what the characters were, a lot of the character development, like what the characters have done. It's a good chance for them to actually to show off without like failing to do something against Koro Sensei like they often do.
Yeah, it's actually a really cool change of pace, the way that they have a different target now, and you get to see them against an opponent that they can feasibly defeat, rather than Koro Sensei, which is just, definitely not in the cards right now. John, finally, your favorite story arc of the year?
I guess I'll be the third person to mention Assassination Classroom. For me, it kind of started with the exams, and I guess really you can say that it's kind of an extension of this all to the island, because they got to the island because of the exams, etc., etc. But I think really starting from that point is when, or maybe even right before that with Itona, like once the class started working together and it was less of either small teams or like one person here or there kind of getting the focus, that's when it really took off for me, and especially starting with the I guess the island arc when they first try to kill Koro Sensei. It's really just been fantastic. And I mean, obviously this is my coaster right now. I'm kind of a fan, so yeah, it definitely best arc for me.
Cool. Yeah, it's a really good one. I want to shout out a few more names here just to give recognition kind of across the board. I really liked the Brother Octopus arc, which is the earlier one when Itona was introduced, and some other notables, as I mentioned, Teiko and Kuroko. The Titan arc in Kenichi, I thought did mostly well. Some of those fan service issues that Clint and I talk about frequently on the Beamcast and even here tonight did crop up in that, but I thought there was some great progress in that. The Dojin competition in Hayate, Winter and Silver Spoon, the Shinomiya Shokugeki and Shokugeki no Soma I thought was good. Dressrosa has had its moments, certainly at the end of the year in One Piece. The training arc after the match that Michael mentioned, I thought the training arc in Haikyuu was very nice for character development. So yeah, lots of stuff, and of course Beelzebub had a couple different arcs, both with Takamiya, then also America. Chapter of the year. This is the second biggest award that we give out here. This is individual favorite chapter of the entire year. I gave this one to Hayate, chapter 431, the big Hayate and Ruka chapter. Again, I've gone on great length about that on the site, so you can check my opinions out there. But as for yours, starting with you, Danny, what did you think your favorite chapter of the year was?
My favorite chapter of the year is Medaka Box chapter 190. It is the culmination of the 100 Flowers run, which was essentially just, you mentioned it in your ending, but basically just Medaka running through the entire cast of the series, fighting them, beating them, and I guess the goal was to obtain a certain flower that had their name tags on it. And in this chapter, it is revealed, that the name tags each had a goodbye message from every single student, and just the way that the whole moment was revealed and all of that was just it was very heartfelt. I really liked that moment specifically. It really stood out to me because it actually, when we talk about an author caring about the characters in their series, this included even unconsequential characters that appeared for like a second, yet they have their names, they have their quirks and everything, and it was just a very nice moment, best moment of the year for me.
Yeah, Nisio Isin certainly could not be faulted for lack of attention to detail. Everyone got their chance in that chapter and that whole arc that you were talking about. I think I think the highest compliment I could give to that chapter culminating that entire arc is that this is a series that I overall, frankly, don't like, but the ending to me was phenomenal. It was such a celebration of itself, and that chapter, I think, exemplified it the most, so I would agree with you that it was a great one. Clint, what about you, your favorite chapter of 2013?
Well, echoing my favorite romance of 2013 was Hayate no Gotoku 431, the same chapter you picked. It was hard to choose anything else, honestly. That chapter stood head and shoulders above almost every other chapter, and that wasn't to say that there wasn't competition. There was plenty of competition. There were a couple memorable Beelzebub chapters this year that I really enjoyed, and Assassination Classroom had a couple very good chapters. But I think in the realm of one chapter only, it was so moving. It had so much to it. So much of the plot had been building towards this moment, and it all paid off in this master stroke of minimalist dialogue and very like nicely styled poses of the characters, and like you could just tell everything that was kind of going on in their mind through their expressions, which is something that's very hard to do with art. Yeah, it was just really well done. That chapter was, yeah, sort of a masterpiece.
It was just absolutely beautiful. I can't put that into words properly. I tried, but it still couldn't quite capture the magic of that chapter. What about you, Michael? Your favorite chapter of the year?
At the risk of being a heretic, I'm going to go with a purely comedic chapter and go pick Sket Dance Chapter 260. And this chapter made me laugh harder than any chapter I'd ever read before. It's where we see through Switch's photographs the descent of a somewhat typical sports festival and its gradual descent into madness and complete chaos, including, but not limited to, regimented delinquents, pyramid powers, and somehow multiple references to classic shoujo stereotypes. It is a fantastic Sket Dance chapter and one of the best comedy chapters I've ever read.
I absolutely love Sket Dance. I really, really hope that the fine folks at Trinity Bakuma, who I'm not criticizing in any way, I love them, they're really nice people. I really hope that they are able to catch up on that and finish that series soon, because that is undeniably, unquestionably one of my favorite comedy series ever. I'll mention in my honorable mention something that might have influenced that one. Jeff, though, what about you? Your favorite chapter of the year?
For me, I think my favorite chapter, I only just got the chapter number, I think it's right, it's The World God Only Knows, chapter 250. It's the big chapter with the exit of Dokuro. I believe she is gone from the current arc. That's what they were saying. And basically her big reveal toward the end. What I really liked about that is the reveal was very good and did some good development. But what I really liked about it is like it's a good example of non-visual storytelling. Like the series never actually came out and specifically said what the twist was. It's just you looked at the one particular panel, and it's just immediately obvious what it is. And then, like, one or two chapters later, they do come out and say it, but at that point, like, that wasn't the big reveal. You already knew it. And I really like that way of going about things. It's not something you see every day, especially when it comes to these kinds of chapters that end on a twist like that.
I think that series treats readers with intelligence so much more so than the vast majority, perhaps more than any other current shonen series. I'd have to actually think about that before saying it with any authority, but I love the way that you explained that reveal. It wasn't just an out and out, oh, look, this is who that is. We were left to figure it out for ourselves. There were clues. I'm not saying it was just total chance that we figured it out, but it was up to us to actually put the pieces together, and it makes it that much more meaningful. So I would definitely agree that was a great moment. What about you, John? Your favorite chapter of 2013?
It was kind of hard to pick out of three, and they were all One Piece chapters because I'm super predictable like that. Between 729, 730, and 731, three huge things, probably the three biggest things that happened in the series, happened like in three chapters back to back. I mean, you had Law finally getting defeated, Big Mom and them showing up out of the blue, and then, you know, of course, the oh, we don't know who he is. Yes, we do. Out of those three, I guess I would say 731 for that reason, even though the rest of the chapter, you know, was pretty normal, I guess. But the fact that, like, that promise of Sabo was sort of finally delivered on was such a good feeling that that I think that's why I ended up having to choose 731.
Yeah, I mean, it was fantastic. That was one of my honorable mentions. Actually, it was in third place for me. Was that one? I want to quickly shout out my honorable mentions for this year, as I mentioned, 731 for that. But second place, and this is what I was alluding to with Michael's segment, was Gintama 456. I have not laughed that hard at anything, not just manga, but anything whatsoever, since another most of the time comedy series, actually, in Hayate. There was, I think it was 2012 was the I'd have to look up honestly what number chapter that is, but there was one particular one where the punchline was just the funniest thing that I had read that year. And this year, Gintama pulled through with the honors. With just it was a beautiful, beautiful combination of like a twist on storytelling technique and parody. There were a string of parody chapters in the middle of the year in Gintama, and this one, it's a Saint Seiya parody chapter, and it is brilliantly funny. And obviously, the relation to Sket Dance and what Michael had mentioned is that the author Shinohara Kenta of Sket Dance was a former assistant to Sorachi of Gintama. So if you like one, you'll love the other, and you should probably be reading both, frankly. But that's it. It's time now for the big one, the biggest award that we could possibly give, Series of the Year. As you have all seen on the site, my pick for this was Assassination Classroom. I was amazed by its consistency, not just that it was solidly enjoyable. It also had peaks. It was both. There was a minimum of great quality, and then it also exceeded itself at many different points throughout the year. And this is its first full year of publishing. It's like a 1.5-year-old series. So I was amazed by that, and I'm extremely impressed. And so that, for me, Assassination Classroom is the pick of the year. But I want to know what all of you think. Starting with you, Danny, what was your Series of the Year 2013?
For the whole year of 2013, I would say it is Bleach. So we started off the year with. It's very interesting that the way that everything went. Bleach as a series had some ups and terrible downs, and then yet somehow for Kubo to, pick it up as much as he did, leading into the final arc, is really impressive. And he started this year with, as we mentioned before, the Kenpachi Unohana fight. What a way to start off the year. And then from there on, it led into the whole flashback of Ichigo's origin, which was also, a pretty good read on its own, even though it was very different for Bleach itself. And then it moved on to the actual invasion arc, which, I'm also thoroughly enjoying. And I just like that. It seems as if Kubo is on a roll. He is comfortable in his own style, and it definitely shows in the way he's rolling out these chapters. He's being as wacky as he needs to be, and slowing things down when he needs to be. Hopefully, he doesn't get too ahead of himself. But I'm really glad the way that it looks like Bleach is going to end with a bang, considering that this final arc seems to be the highest point in Bleach in a very long time.
Yeah, it's so wonderful that it seems like it's actually going to go out with a bang. It's doing everything that it needs to be doing now the right way. And when you look back to what we could compare it to in the past, I mean, obviously on this site and all the conversations Clint and I have had on Beamcast about the Hueco Mundo arc and Fake Karakura Town arc, it's such a relief. It's so wonderful to see it now doing the right thing. By the way, very quick mention, Hayate 355 was that chapter in 2012. Clint, your highest honors for Series of the Year 2013, please.
There was actually a lot more competition than I thought there would be in my mind for this, but I finally settled on Beelzebub. I think Beelzebub did a lot of stuff really right. Like the whole Takamiya arc, the whole Oga must become the top of the delinquents again, where he kind of had to fight his way back through another series of delinquents. That was all really good. I definitely enjoyed a lot of the characters that were added to the cast during that. I think over the year, characters have been really fleshed out. Furuichi, through the tissue arc and the flashback we got showing his history with Oga. Some of the other smaller supporting characters that were kind of added to Oga's squad, they really had time to shine and develop themselves. Himekawa especially. So I really like that, but I think that the crowning jewel, the thing that made Beelzebub the series of the year for me, was the America arc, which really was just such an excellent cap to the year. It was the perfect arc to place right at the end of it, right at the transition between years, so that we could have kind of a climax of everything, where we've been building to this Solomon company, and then Oga finally goes, and we meet. I won't deliberately spoil, so I'll leave what I was going to say out. But it was just one event after another, and it was all done so well. And then the cliffhanger at the end of the year that we've been left on was so suspenseful, and such an ending to the year for it, that I just couldn't see anything other than Beelzebub for this category.
Yeah, like you, I think that the America arc has taken the series a massive step above what it had been. It was always good, but I think the depth and maturity that we're seeing out of Oga specifically right now is taking it to an entirely new level, which is great. Michael, your pick for series of the year 2013?
I have to go with One Piece. Just in terms of consistent enjoyability, One Piece has been the top of the year for me. Even from the beginning of the year, seeing the Straw Hat Crew first encounter Dressrosa with ridiculous fake mustaches, by the way, and into the Coliseum arc, I just loved everything about this series throughout the year. The new characters like Bartolomeo and Moosey. Well, we should never forget Moosey. And it's never. I can't point to any particular chapter as being fantastic in my opinion, but just in terms of just general overall level of quality, One Piece has just been amazing for me this year.
731. That's the chapter of quality. No, there were plenty. There were plenty. I'm not taking away from what you said. Definitely always a contender for this category. All right, Jeff, what about you? What's your pick for series of the year?
There were a lot of good series this year. For me, the two big ones were Assassination Classroom and Yamada-kun. Like, there were a lot of other good ones, like One Piece and Kaminomi, like we all said before, were also standout too. And it's just that I know those series have been better, so part of me couldn't think to put them as series of the year at this point, even if they are good. For me, the series would probably have to be Assassination Classroom. Like what I mentioned before, I think the current arc and the build up to that lasted at least half of the year. I'm not sure the exact numbers behind that, but it has been the most consistently good this year, I think, and one of the most captivating with each new chapter. I'm really excited to see, especially now, where the next chapter is going with the story.
Yeah, as I've mentioned, as Clint has mentioned, all of us have mentioned at various different points, it's been so impressive with its story, especially lately. Definitely worth a look there. And then finally, John, you're going to get the chance to close us all out here on our look at 2013. What is your favorite series of the year?
And I'm going to do it by being a yes man and say definitely Assassination Classroom. It was new to me as well this year. And I can't remember the last time I started a new series and caught up so fast. Not just because there wasn't a whole heck of a lot of it out, is because after a few chapters, I was hooked. And even the points of the series, and this has kind of already been said, but even the points of the series where it's been the lowest has not been low. And that's a pretty hard feat to accomplish. And it's been a great joy to read, and for a premise that hasn't really gone that far, he's done a lot of different things with it, and it's just been a blast.
Yeah, that consistency is incredible. Honestly, for any series to have that consistency, it's enviable. It's what every series strives to do. So it's difficult for any series, let alone a series again. It's a year and a half in. This was its first full year of publication. It debuted, I believe, exactly halfway through 2012. So it's really remarkable to think of what it's already done and what it could be poised to do. Really, if you think about it, only the absolute very best series have been able to start that strongly. I'm not saying that Assassination Classroom is guaranteed to become this legendary series that we all think about for ages to come, but all those series, like the Dragon Balls and the One Pieces and series of that nature that are at the absolute pinnacle, they start immediately. They start with such a presence that it's just immediate. You get that from day one, and they just stay in our minds from that point onwards. And Assassination Classroom, again, who's to say what the future will bring, but it has that start. It has the foundation. So that's it for the 2013 retrospective. Thank you all very much for sharing your opinions. I want to get our brief thoughts. This is not going to be a very long segment, but just kind of general thoughts, hopes, maybe worries or concerns, what we see coming, predictions potentially. I'm going to leave the floor open to each of you for as long as you feel like talking about what you think about what's going to happen in 2014. Danny, beginning with you, please.
I want to admit to saying that I am very good at predicting these kind of things, seeing as how Jump seems to be in a kind of a strange place. Some of its top series are not exactly the battle manga, or rather the top new series, I guess. Mainly because you still have the old guard there holding down the fort, and once they end, things are going to start getting shaken up. And I think it's going to start with Bleach ending. We know that Bleach is going to end. Naruto is on its way out, depending on how long Kishimoto decides to be stubborn. And if Bleach ends, I really like to see what happens to that magazine, because it's gonna be quite the moment when things start changing. It'll just be the start, and Naruto's gonna go down next. One Piece is probably gonna outlive them all, but Naruto and Bleach ending probably within the year or even next year is gonna be quite the sight to see for the magazine.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a discussion topic that we could go on about at great length, and I think, frankly, we should. This is a topic that I think it's timely enough that one of our upcoming Friday conversations, let's have that. Let's actually discuss that and hash that out and figure out what exactly is going to come in Jump. So, Clint, your thoughts on 2014, hopes, worries, etc.? What do you think?
I think One Piece is going to do pretty good.
Okay, moving on. Thanks a lot, Clint.
Now, in all honesty, I expressed the same concerns with Jump. I wonder what it's going to do. It's kind of been in a state of constant flux. Like was already mentioned, Bleach and Naruto are both going to end very soon. It doesn't have a whole lot of strong contenders. I think Assassination Classroom is going to dominate 2014. Honestly, I think it's going to rule the magazine throughout the year. But I'm hoping to see some new stuff. I hope within a couple months we can see a couple new series that are really something different, something that we haven't seen. There's a couple very new manga that I'm still kind of looking at and I'd like to see more of. I think one that we haven't mentioned all show is Soul Catchers, which I've been enjoying that series enough, but I think we really need a couple big things, a couple things that everyone is immediately talking about, sort of like what happened with Assassination Classroom on the scene. I mean, we've talked about Jump, especially what's going to happen to Magazine anymore, because they've lost quite a few of their series over time that were big for them. So I think they also need some series to step up to the plate.
Yeah, definitely. This is not a Jump exclusive problem. Frankly, it's probably a bigger problem for everyone else. Is just how to catch up to Jump, really, because they have such a stranglehold and monopoly on this. And not to say that Magazine and Sunday are irrelevant, but they're nowhere near Jump. Michael, what about you? Again, hopes, expectations, fears, etc. What are your thoughts on what will happen in 2014?
I have two primary points. I want to see some series that have been great in the past be great again in this year. Like, several series have been okay. Like, Bleach has been okay. The Will Golly Knows has been pretty good. But I like to see series like that. Also, series like Toriko and Magi, and even to a much lesser extent, One Piece, really show us why they are fantastic series and have been so in the past. And there's full potential for example, One Piece, because we're reaching the climax of that arc to get to that point again. But it seems like this year is mostly defined by series either drastically dropping in quality or just maintaining a status quo. Like, Nisekoi is a perfect example. That series has been great in the past, but for a long time it's been mostly satisfied with maintaining a status quo because it just doesn't want to advance the plot. And why should it? It's a cash cow right now. And the second point is I'm curious to see what new series will step up, because quite a few series ended, but there weren't a ton of memorable series that debuted. And Bin Megami ended, Soul Eater ended, and there are several series that will be ending very soon. Like, I think Claymore will be ending very soon, another monthly series. Yamada doesn't really seem like it has much more to do. Naruto will be ending soon, Bleach will be ending soon. So I really just want to see what new series will arise this year to take over that next step. And I'm also interested, this includes the Shonen Jump submission contest they had. I mean, I really loved that Western-themed one. I forget its name. But I'm just curious to see if one of those people wins, how that'll do. And I want to see what new series will come up this year.
Yeah, I think that's always the biggest part of any year, frankly, is just what influx we get. And I also appreciated your mention of Yamada. I can't get over that it's still going. I mean, it's a good series, and I'm not wishing badly on Yoshikawa Miki or anything like that, but it should have ended. Though it was done, and then it's just Kimi no Uramachi syndrome, another syndrome. It's just continuing after its main point is finished. So that's a bit curious. We'll see what comes of it. Jeff, your conclusive thoughts on what is to come in 2014?
Well, for starters, I find it interesting to note that in 2013, most of the series that we considered the best or the highest quality are actually newer series. Like, I think Assassination Classroom, Yamada, and Shokugeki, I think those all started in 2012, actually. And even in Natsu, it's not the highest quality, but it is consistently interesting, I think. And that started in 2012, I think. So, I think with 2014, we are going to be seeing a lot more of those, but and I think, and possibly Iron Knight, if that turns out like, well, people have been talking good about it. But I think what I'd like to see in 2014 is like the older series consistently proving why they are so consistently popular. And though I do think that now is a time for newer series to stand up and possibly like take the like if the older similar series are ending, it's time for newer series to come and prove why they should like take those roles that they had, like in terms of the fans. But so far, there aren't too many series I think that have like that same kind of long-term potential that One Piece has, and Naruto and Bleach. Well, Bleach may still have it. Naruto doesn't have it anymore, I think. But that kind of long-term appeal, because I'm not sure what to expect from this year. I'm hoping that more new good series pop up. That seems to be what I'm not even sure anymore. It's kind of confusing what to think. Yeah.
No, that's good though, because I mean, the year's going to be an unknown. You can just approach it and enjoy it for whatever it ends up being. But I think you do make some valid points in there about the established stars, the big heavy hitters, kind of needing to show why they're there, and being able to fend off all the young and up and coming upstarts. That we want competition. We want as much competition as possible between these series to get the best out of every one of them. So yeah, I think that's an extremely valid point. The fact that it's time for the old guard to reinforce their position, because you're so right about saying that Assassination Classroom is new, and the Natsu no Taizai, it's an up and coming heavy hitter. That's also fairly new, and Shokugeki no Soma again. Like, these are all pretty new series, and they're only going to keep coming. That's the state of manga. So it is time kind of for the big guns to prove that they deserve to be where they are right now. John, lastly, it's up to you. Your thoughts, hopes, expectations, what have you, for 2014.
One thing I would like to see for next year is, I don't know, so many of the new things that came out got canceled right away without, I feel like even if they weren't going to amount to anything, I wonder if a lot of them weren't given enough of a chance. I'd like to see less of that, honestly. I guess I feel like something needs more of a run to really decide if it's going to be popular. But I guess, I mean, it's all about making money, so they'll do what they will do. Definitely Assassination Classroom is going to be hard to eclipse next year. Just based solely on what I saw while I was in Japan over the holiday season. Assassination Classroom is definitely, like, every single bookstore had excuse me, a huge ad for the new tankobon that had just come out. Not even just, the anime goods stores. On that note, I will say Shingeki no Kyojin was everywhere. It is, without a doubt, the most popular series in Japan right now, and that's probably more so because of the anime, but everywhere there were like postcards and weird little things, even in all of the convenience stores. I mean, you just couldn't escape it. Another thing that was really popular, I could tell, was Kuroko no Basket, and I know you had a few things to say, but I know nothing about it, honestly. But that one I could tell was really popular over there. But even just based on a few things that I would see around, Assassination Classroom is going to be the series to beat. And if that's the case, then that's a pretty high bar to set, because it's already done so well, and it's only been a manga. Like, if I know there's some sort of like OVA type thing in the works, if that's correct. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I
Like,
think you're right.
if they put out an anime of it, whether it's this year or even at the beginning of next year or something, I'm positive it will destroy. And I think it's just going to be hard to catch up to the potential that series already has going for it.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we're all sharing this opinion. I was worried that I was kind of going out on a limb here by saying giving all this praise to Assassination Classroom, but it's really reaffirming and nice to see that so many people agree. Because really, I feel it's just been such a high mark in quality for the entire year. And again, I can't get over how amazing that is for a relatively new series. And there are a lot of series to watch. I mean, we've all mentioned some. Toriko, this is one of those big guns that needs to get back up to the position where it used to be, and we have every opportunity for that now, with the gourmet world approaching. Um, I mean, at One Piece, obviously, once we get into bigger and better things in Dressrosa, and I know bigger and better from where we've just been, it's kind of amazing to think about, but we are going to get that. Kuroko no Basket is wrapping up. We're going to have some endings of some big series here. Beelzebub, with all the development that we've seen lately. Fairy Tail. Anyway, Hayate, I want like Kaminomi, for example, like for it to try and get back to the present and recapture any of the magic from the Goddess Hunt arc. There's so many series that either are just going to continue because we know that out of them. We've seen proof that they can just at the flip of a switch. Okay, Kaminomi, it's time to be fantastic. Let's go. And there are some other ones that they've just faltered, but we know they have that potential there. So there is so much to come out of so many different series in 2014. And like John said, if some of these series are given a bit longer of a chance, and I know that for Jump that's a bit of an awkward proposition because of the fan voting table of contents and all that, but if some of these series are just given a little bit more of a run, not even a huge run, but a little bit longer, maybe we'll see some series for once, finally, that actually have any chance of sticking around, first of all, and then potentially maybe work their way into the audience's hearts and hopefully find something that is going to be the next big series. Because as we've all talked about, Naruto and Bleach coming to an end at some point. Bleach probably this year. Naruto maybe this year, probably more likely early next year. What's the next big thing to come up and replace them? We don't really know yet. Could it be Iron Knight? It could be, but it's way too early to call on that. And even with the information that we do have, there's a little bit of a different feeling between Iron Knight and something that just immediately catches your attention. So hopefully we are going to get some new series, as all of you have mentioned, that are really going to impress us. Hopefully we get the very best out of the series that we've loved for so long. And that's it. That's our big retrospective of 2013. That's our preview of 2014. So much to look forward to, indeed, in the world of Shonen Manga, as well as on the site. All these fine folks are going to be helping us contribute plenty of content to cover everything, as we always do, in the world of Shonen Manga over the year. So thank you all very much for being here. I'm not going to take the time to thank you all by name, but it's been a pleasure to talk with all of you. I look forward to working with you over the coming year. Viewers, listeners, fans, thank you all very much for all the time that you've spent with us in this show and indeed the rest of the time on the site. Please continue to check out shonenbeam.com. I know right now we're kind of in the break period because of the whole winter break. Manga are off, but we will be back at it as soon as there is actually content for us to cover. And once that happens, please do continue checking out the site, telling all your friends, get the word out there. We really want to make this a big year for Shonen Beam, and yeah, that's it. Thank you all so very much. Thanks, guys. Danny, Clint, Michael, Jeff, John, it's been a pleasure, and we'll talk to you later. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye, everyone.
See you.